In 2018, a radical political change took hold of Ethiopia. A popular uprising ended nearly 3 decades of rule dominated by the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, and brought to power a promising new Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed. Hailed for ending hostilities with neighboring Eritrea, Abiy won the Nobel Peace Prize and raised hopes for national unity. His government was embroiled in a brutal civil war with the TPLF in the northern region of Tigray, leaving hundreds of thousands dead and millions displaced. My guest tonight is one of Ethiopia's most recognizable politicians. He was the TPLF's wartime spokesman who helped negotiate a peace deal in 2022. He became Tigray's transitional president before being ousted and joining the federal government he once condemned. Now he serves as Abiy's advisor for East African affairs, as a faltering peace deal fuels renewed hostilities and the threat of a wider conflict. I'm Mehdi Hassan, and tonight I go head-to-head with Getachow Reda on his new alliance with former arch-nemesis Abiy Ahmed, and whether Ethiopia and Eritrea are on the brink of another war. Tonight, I'll also be joined by our panel of experts. Sedale Lemma, journalist and editor of the Addis Standard newspaper, Kjetil Tronvall, professor of peace and conflict studies at Oslo New University College, and Bisrat Lemessa, founder of the think tank Nexus Forum for Research and Dialogue. Getachow Reda, thank you for joining me on Head to Head tonight.
My pleasure.
You are currently serving as a government minister and an advisor to Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Abiy, as you know, is a controversial, some would say divisive political figure in your country. His critics say he's a tyrant, he's a grifter, he's dismembering Ethiopia. What's your response to people who make those criticisms of your boss?
Some, if not most of the things I have said all along the last couple of years, the last few years. So after having signed the Pretoria Agreement, and submitting ourselves to the Constitution, because we have to put an end to the war. And after having served as interim president of Tigray for 2 years, we have come to a point where we have to work closely with the Prime Minister, whatever our political differences, whatever our characterizations.
You recognize that you're the person who called him a tyrant, a grifter, dismembering Ethiopia?
And more, yeah.
And more. You did go more.
Yeah.
You actually accused him of committing the crime of crimes, genocide, against your people, against the Tigrayans during the recent civil war. According to you, Abiy's forces even tried to assassinate you via drone strike, and they abducted and detained your sister. How does your sister feel about you working with the people who abducted her? Make for an awkward family dinner.
My sister would feel the pain of having to go through the kinds of problems she had to face. But I think it would be fair to say that my sister is going to feel relieved that the kinds of sufferings she had to go through, people would not have to go through anymore.
You fell out with your old party, the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, the TPLF. They ousted you. And then you went and joined Abiy Ahmed. You didn't have to join the other side. You could have just said, you know what, I'm done with all of you.
Yeah, one of the things I knew I had to do was to make sure that my erstwhile friends, my comrades, who for one reason or another, of course that would include myself too, led to the kinds of suffering the people of Tigray had to suffer because of their failure in leadership, should not be allowed to continue to enjoy the kind of totalitarian control over the people of Tigray. So as long as there was a possibility, indeed a likelihood of working closely with the federal government, not to spite the people of Tigray, but to protect the interests of the people of Tigray.
But you're working with the federal government, hold on Getachow, you're working with the federal government that you spent years calling war criminals. You said Abiy Ahmed, and I'm quoting you, perfected genocide into an art form. Do you stand by those genocide accusations, or have you walked them back now that you work with?
Whatever the superlatives there, I know all kinds of crimes were committed in Tigray.
Did Abiy Ahmed carry out a genocide?
I will tell you this, as a lawyer,
yeah.
I cannot say who did this and that, but the crime was committed in Tigray.
You're a lawyer?
Yeah.
Were you not a lawyer in 2021 when you said Abiy Ahmed has carried out a genocidal campaign?
Yeah, I was a lawyer.
Were you not a lawyer when you said Abiy committed genocide on the people of Tigray?
I was a lawyer, and I was in the heat of a conflict that was claiming the lives of hundreds of thousands of people.
So was it a genocide or not?
I believe genocide has been committed in Tigray.
By Abiy Ahmed?
Well, I have to be responsible for my words now.
So you weren't responsible
and I
before?
am ready to stand by my position that genocide has been committed.
I'm confused. Just to clarify for the audience watching, you still believe it was a genocide,
yes.
but you're not willing to say he did the genocide?
Yes.
It was a genocide that just happened by itself?
No, there were so many actors involved.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is...
Was he one of them?
Well, the war on Tigray was led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed himself.
So he led the genocide?
I mean, we don't have to be that specific.
We do.
He led the war.
That's why we invited you here, to find out your views.
He led the war.
He led the war.
So I will give him the
genocide
opportunity to defend himself in public, in court.
Okay.
What I'm saying is all kinds of crimes.
You mentioned...
Crimes, ethnic cleansing, genocide were committed.
So you're right, there were well-documented war crimes committed by the federal government, by Eritrean troops,
yes.
by Amhara militias. But human rights organizations in the United Nations also documented massacres of hundreds of people, including civilians, by Tigrayan forces, by your side. At the time, you labeled those claims, quote, a figment of someone's imagination. You called it a staged drama. Can you now admit that you were lying at the time to cover up war crimes by your forces?
I was making a statement defending our decisions that there was no systematic attack against civilians by the Tigrayan forces, but to the extent that there were incidents. When I say...
You said at the time, these are just a figment of someone's imagination. There was no such thing as our forces going in every house and targeting civilians. They fought and our forces fought back. That sounds like a denial of war crime.
You know, in the benefit of hindsight, I can see cases here and there where civilians were targeted.
Here and there?
Yes.
One man said he counted 55 corpses as he escaped from his town in northern Ethiopia. He stepped over bodies scattered in the streets. Another asserted he was rounded up with 20 men who were shot in front of him. Yet others claimed Tigrayan forces went door to door, killing men and teenage boys. That happened on your watch.
Well, to say that it happened under my watch, under circumstances, would be a bit of a stretch. But when I say that no such decision was made against civilians, I still stand by it, because there was no decision to target civilians. But as long as there were off-grid officers here and there who have targeted civilians, I'd be more than glad to assume my fair share of responsibility.
To be fair, you recently exposed an internal TPLF investigation that accuses 231 of your former leaders and affiliates of crimes, including human trafficking, abductions, gold and weapon smuggling. But you waited to reveal it.
Honestly...
How do we know you weren't involved in these crimes?
Honestly, I wasn't involved in the crimes because...
Well, you exposed them.
Because I wasn't. But I knew...
That's not really a good defense. I wasn't involved in the crimes because I wasn't.
After having spent months as president of the interim administration, it came to my knowledge that these kinds of activities were quite...
But you didn't reveal it. You waited until this year.
Because I didn't reveal it because we believed in the TPLF that maintaining a modicum of unity was far more important than addressing our internal problems. And that...
I mean, human trafficking is not an internal problem. It's a major crime.
When I first decided to bring those not just accusations, but also evidence to light, well, my responsibility was to make sure the people who were in the business of adjudicating these cases were informed. And it's not like I can go door to door and prosecute myself.
But you exposed 231 people.
But I did the exposing way ahead of my being ousted as interim president.
But you admitted earlier this year that you lied up until now. I tolerated this.
No, I tolerated.
You lied. You said you lied.
No, I didn't lie. I tolerated.
You said earlier this year, it is enough that I lied up to now, and I tolerated up to now. Those are your words.
Well,
are you lying about having lied?
Whoever translated those things to you must have overstated their case.
What would you say to someone in this audience who says, you exposed 231 people in your party for committing crimes. Conveniently, none of the 231 were you.
Unfortunately for whoever is making those claims, I wasn't one of them. It's as simple as that.
Okay. The Pretoria Agreement, the peace deal that you negotiated, signed in 2022, that pledged justice for millions of people who suffered during the war in Tigray. It's been 3 years, and none of the key promises have been fulfilled. None of the major players have been held accountable for war crimes. In fact, many of them are still in positions of power. Last month, you met with Amhara official Demeke Zudu, who Human Rights Watch has said continued the ethnic cleansing in Western Tigray even after the ceasefire, including, quote, arbitrary detention, torture, forced deportations. How can Tigrayans possibly believe that you are working in their best interest when you're meeting one of the men who is responsible for them having lost their land?
Is that unheard of elsewhere? If you are interested in resolving this crisis, you have to deal with people who are in charge now. I believe the federal government needs to dismantle any Amhara administration in occupied areas in Western Tigray and other parts of Tigray that are still occupied by the Amhara. And if I have to make sure that the people have their opportunity to come back home, you have to work with the federal government and work with people.
This is the problem, Getachow. You seem to change your tune. You have to change your tune.
No, I have to swallow my pride.
Not just swallow your pride, you're changing your very view of the world. This is what you said a year ago.
No, I'm not
This is what you said.
Anyone.
This is what you said a year ago. It would be very foolhardy for us to expect internally displaced persons to enter when the very people who caused their displacement in the first place are still roaming the very streets we saw the carnage. You're sitting down with those people.
This is one of the arguments we have with the federal government when I was head of the interim administration is for that Amhara administration to be dismantled and for security to be taken care of by the federal government along with traditional militia and police institutions that had been there before the war. And I haven't changed my position.
Okay.
Demeke Zudu should not be in the business of administering that area, but if I have to create the ground for the return of IDPs with the federal government and have to continue to work with people like him.
Many Tigrayans, you know this, see you as a traitor. Thousands of people in Tigray went to the battlefield and they died. They were killed in war based on your call to arms. You urged young Tigrayans to, quote, rise and deploy to battle in tens of thousands. What do you say to the people of Tigray today who were victims of the war and who now think you betrayed them by joining the architect of their suffering, Abiy Ahmed?
There are two things here. That Tigrayans had to come out en masse to defend themselves was the right thing to do. That I had to call on them to rise up to defend themselves was the right thing to do. But that as member of the leadership, we have failed them miserably. That I will carry to my grave is I am part of the blame. And the reason why I am trying to do what I am doing right now is to make sure that not only I atone for the kinds of mistakes we have done, but also I have to do everything in my power to make sure that that sort of miscalculation will never happen again. And the thousands of youngsters who paid their lives, that could have been avoided if we were insightful enough as the leaders. Doesn't happen again.
All right.